Okay, so for lesson 4, we are going to look at investigating between two numerical variables. Last lesson, we sort of really looked at only categorical and numerical, as well as both categoricals, but this time it's just two numerical variables. And it is very important to construct a visual display of the data, and that's what we call a scatter plot. Okay, so just type or write in scatter plot right there. So what we're going to do is we're going to construct a scatter plot manually. It's really, really important that you recognize that here we have temperature for the number of days, what it is, the weather outside, and that the explanatory variable is always on the x-axis. So that's what we hope explains it, but the RV, which is the response variable, is the sales. So in case you don't know what the y-axis is, that's the one that goes up and down, whereas the x-axis is the one that goes left and right. Okay, so let's get straight into it. It's a pretty simple thing. All we really need to do here is just to make sure that we mark the lines appropriately, that we do the right labeling, but we know which one goes in the bottom. Okay, so we did say that the explanatory variable is on the bottom, the one that goes left and right. So make sure we just write underneath temperature. Okay, I wrote temp there, but I'm sure you can write temperature. And on the left here, we write sales. We don't forget to use the units. Sales is in dollars, and temperature is in Celsius degrees. Okay, so the next thing we need to do now is to mark the lines. Okay, so we can see, if we look back up at our table, that our smallest number is probably about 11.9 for the temperature. And that it's important for us so that way we know really which scale to use, and that our biggest number is about, I think, a 25.1. So we might go up by 5s, and as you can see here, we're just going to mark the lines individually and complete it like that. Make sure we have our individual line markings. As you can see, between 25 and 30, I have not marked it there. We're now going to look at sales to see what our smallest and biggest numbers are. So we are 185 is our smallest, and 614 will be our biggest. So maybe we can try and go all the way up to 700, going up by hundreds. Maybe each line can be worth 50. Okay, so 50, and then that could be 100. 150, and that can be 200, and so on. Now all we really need to do is just mark out each individual point. So here we've got 14.2 degrees and 215 for the dollars. Okay, so now we just got to find where that is on our scatter plot. Okay, so we line it up, and that's it, where our first mark will be. Once we continue doing this process, it should look something like this. Okay, and you can see here that there is an increasing trend. So the higher the temperature, the more money the shop makes in sales. So in a scatter plot, each point represents a single case, and like we mentioned before, it is conventional to use the vertical or the y-axis for the response variable, and we call this the RV, as well as the horizontal or x-axis, which is for the explanatory variable, and we say EV for this. Let's go straight into an example. So, the scatter plot shown has been constructed from data collected to investigate the relationship between price of a second-hand car and its age. Use the scatter plot to answer the following question. So, which one is the response variable? Which one's the explanatory variable? Like we mentioned before, the one that's at the bottom, which is the horizontal one, is our explanatory variable. So in this case, it'd be age. And of course, the price being the other one, the one on the vertical axis. How many cars are there in the data set? Well, essentially, we just need to add up how many dots there are, and we get 12 cars more specifically. Okay, let's look at how old is the car that's circled, what is its price. So let's just line it up. And we can see that from the vertical one, which is the age, that clearly represents 6 years. okay, because it's actually on the line going up and down. But with the other one, it looks like it might be 12, but if you zoom in a little bit, or if you just look a little bit closer, you can see that it's just slightly above the 12. So we might say just a little bit over 12, and considering this is in thousands, we might say about 12,100. I would even accept 12,200. But either one of those, somewhere around there. But I definitely would not accept 12.9, because 12.9 would be somewhere up about here. Okay, that would be 12.9 or 12,900, so that would be completely wrong. Okay, just make sure you keep it within the range. So let's open up our CAS calculators and let's try and create a scatter plot of this data. Okay, it's really, really important that you label. So let's go into lists and spreadsheets first and foremost. And we know that we're talking about the time spent studying as well as the mark on the test. So let's just use those two names. Okay, so first thing was lists and spreadsheets, and now it's to label the two names. So up here we're going to write time, and next to it we're going to say mark. And then we're just going to put in our numbers. Okay, so once you get to the bottom there, make sure you actually scroll up, because it won't recognize the last number you put in. So please don't leave it here before you go into the next step. I make an effort of scrolling all the way up to the top. It's just so that way we're guaranteed we've got all the right numbers in without missing any. Next thing is to make sure that 4 and 41, they're like linking up. So the first 2 points are in line, the next two are in line, 36 and 87. 23 and 67, and so on. Next step is to press Control-I and add data and statistics. Okay, and then we get to this point here. All we need to do now is just make sure that the bottom one is the explanatory variable, which in this case is time, and the one on the vertical axis is the response variable, which in this case is mark. Okay, and we can see an increasing trend, and this is a quick way of drawing a scatter plot. So that should be it for lesson 4. Don't forget that you go to the questions and that you complete exercise 2D and questions 1 to 6. Thank you very much.